This story begins on Christmas Eve, at a mass for the homeless, where Jin, a middle-aged alcoholic, marked by remorse for a past irresponsible, and Hannah, a trans woman and former cabaret worker with a maternal heart, wait for their turn to deliver a community dinner. They manage to get more food so they can give it to our last protagonist, Miyuki, a teenager who ran away from home after a heated argument with his father. Hannah suggests going to the dumpster to look for a gift for Miyuki. Upon arriving, they notice a cry amid the garbage bags, which is an abandoned baby wrapped in blankets, along with a note, "Take care of this girl," and a key to a station locker. Jin laments the baby's fate, wants to take him to a police station, but Hannah, with her maternal instincts, thinks she's a gift from God to them and that they should take care of her until they find her parents and decide to name her, which means pure girl. From this moment on, the trio of protagonists experience strange situations, even magical ones, avoiding all kinds of danger as if they had an angel in their arms. They arrive at her humble home to spend the night. The girl starts crying, and they don't understand why. However, Jin quickly understands that they must change her diaper and give her milk. Everyone is surprised that Jin knows how to take care of a baby. That's when she tells us that she got married at 20 and had a daughter who started getting sick soon after. In his cycling career, he entered an amateur race to make easy money, but he was reported and expelled. His daughter died, and soon after, unfortunately, so did his wife. The next day, when Jin and Miyuki wake up, they realize she's not there. Hannah and the baby go out to look for her and find her in the middle of a park, crouching down. Jin tells her that they must hand the baby over to the police so she can return to her parents. However, Hannah says she never met her mother and that she's afraid the baby will go through the same thing. So that they set out to find the mother to ask her what to do using the key they found at the beginning. They head to the lockers on the train, and there they find more clues about the identity of the girl's parents and a photograph of the parents, cards, and an address. So they decide to go look for them. When boarding the train to go to your destination, Miyuki notices a man in the other car of the train. She seems to recognize him, which scares her. The man recognizes her too, so she starts calling out to her. This worries her, and she desperately runs away. Her companions don't understand, but they follow her anyway. Just when they're starting to get hungry, they arrive at a cemetery and take the offerings. From there, and like magic, they find milk and diapers for the baby. When they resumed their journey, they found a man under his car. Unfortunately, his car got stuck, and when he went to fix it, he forgot to put the brake on. They helped him, and he was like, "Thank you." He gives him a little money. Luckily for him, he knows the owner of the Swire Club mentioned on the cards found previously. The man takes them in his car and mentions that his daughter is going to marry the owner, and this is one of his workers. Upon arriving at the club, they are surprised to discover that the man is a member of the mafia, and that his daughter's name is also, as fate would have it, they find the man in the photograph. He tells them that the woman next to him is named She was a club employee. She left because she was pregnant. Jin, in his madness, begins to say that the man is to blame for being in debt, and that if it weren't for him, he would still be with his wife and daughter. At that very moment, a waitress appears and shoots him for no reason. As he tries to escape, he takes Miyuki and the baby hostage. Later, it's revealed to us that it was a man in disguise. Hannah and Jin run after them but lose their trail because they were in a car. Hannah insists on looking for them, but Jin gives up and prefers the police to take charge. This angers Hannah, since she was hoping to count on his support, since she considers him her own family. But in the face of such an act, she proceeds to insult him and leaves him alone. Wandering alone, he finds another homeless man lying on the street, about to die. This one is his last wish. He asks him for a drink and takes him home. Like reward, gives him a small red bag, and the homeless man dies. Leaving that cardboard house, he finds a new clue from the photo. But he's cornered by 5 boys who, for no reason at all, start attacking him. They beat the old man next to his corpse, stealing an envelope he had in his pocket. In parallel, Miyuki and the baby are taken to a precarious place. But luckily, the criminal's wife is very kind and takes care of the baby. There's confesses that she ran away from home because she stabbed her father because she blames him for the disappearance of her cat, Angel. Meanwhile, Hannah, with her instinct, manages to find them, and they proceed to leave. When they leave the house, an ambulance passes by and the people comment that a poor homeless man has just died. Hannah, desperate, thinks it's Jin. But upon arriving, she sees that it's the old man Jin found on the street. Meanwhile, Jin is beaten, bloody and weak, is rescued by an angel. The girls look for shelter for the night and go to Hannah's old workplace, the Angel Tower. nightclub. To their surprise, inside, they find Jin being cared for by his former colleagues. Hannah talks to the business owner, whom she calls mother, and tells her that she used to be with a man named Ken, but he died after slipping in the bathroom. He stopped working because he got into an argument with a client, and he was afraid to do it again, and so he ended up homeless, taking as a reference the landscape that appears in a photo they found among the clues. The next day, they embark on a new search throughout the city. And at night, while searching shelter, they realize that the house in the photo is destroyed and abandoned. When asking the neighbors, they told him that a couple lived there who were fighting, and that they left 3 months ago because they were in debt, because the husband was a gambler, vicious and lazy. Before leaving, they find a new address. Miyuki notices in some newspapers that her family sent her a message, Angel has returned. At night, inside a store, Jin reveals that his daughter is actually alive, and that he left his family because he was an alcoholic and a gambling addict. However, he dreams of one day doing something good for his daughter, and despite her poverty, she's managed to save 30,000 yen, and she wishes she could give it to him. Sometime, Miyuki goes out to make a call to her father, but she doesn't have the courage to apologize, and hangs up without speaking to him. Meanwhile, at the store, the manager asks our stars to leave, and a drunk man interferes and starts insulting them, just for being homeless. This angers Jin, and he starts fighting with the drunk. Outside the store, to everyone's surprise, an ambulance comes speeding and crashes into the store, thus saving himself from a miracle, given that was the impression. However, Hannah faints, showing signs of exhaustion and weakness due to their diet. Very poor. Luckily, all three are taken to a hospital. While they wait, the news reports that the man who was about to get married and was shot survived the attack. Miyuki finds a nurse also named Kyoko. Thanks to Jin's savings, they manage to pay for the care and medicine. And, as fate would have it, they meet the nurse Miyuki had met at the hospital, who is actually Miyuki's daughter, Jin, and they stare at each other. Since they hadn't seen each other in a long time, they start talking about what happened before Jin left, of their lives. However, she forgives him, and even gives him her number so he can call her, given the situation. Hannah makes a scene because of all the lies Jin has told before. She exposes him as a homeless person, alcoholic, and liar, who often says that his daughter and wife died to gain the sympathy of others. Hannah leaves the hospital in a rage, and Miyuki follows her with Q. But on the street, Hannah confesses to Miyuki that she only played the role of the villain to get Jin. Face your daughter, honestly. Alone in the hospital, Jin sees on TV that a baby was kidnapped from the hospital's newborn ward, and it's identical to the one they found in the dumpster. Continuing their search, Hannah and Miyuki find a woman about to jump into the river, and she turns out to be the mother of the baby they're carrying. Or rather, they save her, and she explains that her husband got rid of the baby without her consent. So Hannah scolds him for preferring to give up. Instead of looking for her, after apologizing and thanking her for her advice, the woman finally leaves with the baby. Meanwhile, Jin arrives at the final address, a house full of trash, and locates Sachiko's husband and confronts him. The man tells her that in reality, that baby isn't his, and that his wife, a boy, suffers from dementia, and that he stole the baby from a hospital, which is why he chose to stay away from her. Suspecting that the woman will try to end both their lives, Jin sets out desperately in search of his companions to warn her about the truth. When they find her, she tells them that the little snail isn't the mother, so they go in search of the baby as if it were a concert of cries. They guide our godparents to a park. The three homeless people reunited again. They begin an intense search to find her. When Sachiko sees them approaching, escapes and steals a truck. Jin steals a bicycle and chases her while the girls get into a taxi. Jin manages to intercept her, crashing into a building. Sachiko, still clinging to the belief that the baby is hers, escapes again, climbing to the roof of the building where she returns to attempt suicide with the girl. Miyuki manages to arrive in time. That's where Sachiko mentions that her daughter died before she was born. Desperate and hurt, she sees a baby who smiles at her and decides that she was going to be his new daughter. So he stole believing that this would repair his marriage. Her husband learns from the news that Chico is in the tower across the street from their house and is about to commit suicide with the baby and repentant, but goes to his window and he tries to convince her not to jump and rebuild their life together. Despite this, Sachiko decides to jump in, but Miyuki manages to hold her and tells her that he wants to meet her parents. At that moment, Sachiko, with the baby in her arms, sees him in, as if he could speak, says, "I want to go home." Repentant Sachiko wants to hand over the baby, but she slips just at that moment. Jin manages to catch Miyuki, but the baby falls with her maternal instinct. Hannah jumps off the building, risking her life to get the baby. Manages to hold on to it, but it still slips. Luckily, manages to grab onto an advertisement, but the advertisement falls to the floor due to its weight. But suddenly, as if by a miracle, a strong wind makes it fall to the floor form. Safe. People just stand there watching. In the end, it's all over again. In the hospital, they manage to get the baby delivered to her real parents. They ask the police officers on their case that they want to be godparents for their baby, the 3 homeless men. Upon going to the room where they are, the police chief is surprised to find that the homeless girl is her daughter who ran away from home months ago. The baby smiles at that moment as if to say, "I found your daddy." Our protagonists can finally rest. JinHurtBut.com comes to terms with his story. We discover that his daughter is alive and forgives him. Hannah, although exhausted, smiles fully. She finally became a mother, even if it was only for a few hours. Miyuki was finally able to see her father again. There are no words, just a glance is enough to open the door to forgiveness. While the city continues its indifferent course, 3 invisible people have been transformed by a small miracle. Not because they were saved by a little girl, but because by saving her, they saved themselves. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please support me with your subscription and a like so I can bring you more content. And tell me in the comments what other movie you want me to bring you. To bring you the summary, see you in the next video. See you soon.